We're Robin and Steve. We left off with our boat out of water and a very big to-do list. Here in Waikawa, Queen Charlotte Sound. This was to be our grubby office for the week. Here's the before shot of our hull. After we'd scraped off a few barnacles, and I was to wet sand the hull. And our propeller and propeller shaft need a lot of work. One of many sanding jobs had begun. While I sanded the propeller blades, Steve attacked the boat from the inside to remove the propeller shaft. And he did some more sanding at our friend's workshop before eventually reconstructing our propeller. So shiny. Just outside the workshop there was an exotic animal. In the 1870s, the hedgehog was introduced by the British to New Zealand to remind colonists of home hedgehogs are doing well, feasting on New Zealand's endangered wildlife. Good one, humans. Back to the boatyard. This is me wet sanding for the first time. And it was much more pleasant than dry sanding. Here, Steve's mixing our antifouling. It must taste foul if you're a barnacle, and so prevents growth on the hull. This time lapse is fairly undramatic, given that we're painting black on black. But for us, it didn't alter that we had to paint a lot quite quickly. Wait a bit, and then do it again. Between coats, I could take off this glamorous outfit. Here's Steve pumping out our old gearbox oil. It does stink. Ugh. At least once a day, we'd go to check out the whereabouts of the local stingrays. And we got to know at least 7, because they all have unique markings. And I'd even say personalities. Next, while Steve was working inside the boat, I was working on top of the boat, treating this timber. It's like sunscreen for our ancient decking. Then I got to do this fun job. It's the best time to appreciate this nice straight line. That done, I was between jobs. And yes, I did wash my hands well after this. This is a bit out of order, but it was a nasty job that Steve tackled, replacing some pipes from our head and from our sink. Feels a bit personal showing you this. Calcium plaques build up inside, and we don't even know how old these pipes are. It felt good to swap them out, especially for me since Steve did this job. Let's backtrack to when Steve took out the propeller shaft. Another job I did not envy. While Steve had been ripping pipes out, I sanded the propeller shaft. Here is the old propeller shaft seal. For this job, Steve did a lot of what he calls boat yoga, contorting into odd positions to get into small spaces. Here is our old cutlass bearing. Steve replaced the cutlass bearing and the propeller shaft seal, so hopefully the whole thing will turn smoothly and with no leaks. After a long day at work, our friend cooked us dinner, and we dined with a view to die for, before taking part in the completion of a puzzle. And then it was complete. Well done, Xanthi. Our friend Xanthi of Amelie Crew fame had heard that it's possible to pick up a completed puzzle in one piece and thought she'd give it a go. Her acceptance of impermanence was admirable. This is our new propeller shaft seal. And after some more boat yoga, this puzzle was nearly complete. shaft was back in. But would the boat leak? Only time would tell. Steve replaced the anodes. Once in the ocean, these metals corrode before steel does, which is nice. Steve painted our propeller with prop speed, an antifoul specific to the propeller. Steve made more adjustments in confined spaces and then, and this is exciting, installed a new water maker, so efficient that we should be able to run it on solar power. Meanwhile, the stands of the boat were moved so I could sand and then paint the remaining patches. And then, our boat was ready to go back in the water. We'd saved a little bit of anti-fouling so that once the boat was lifted a little bit, Steve could paint the bits of the keel that had been on the stands. And we didn't sink. We headed out to the fuel dock to top up with diesel and water. And then put the solar panels back up again. And then, just for something different, Steve mowed the lawn for our friends. And then we went exploring, walking with wekas in beautiful places. This is a baby weka, too small to even see the beautiful view. We got to know that it's tricky to sail here. The mountains scrambling the winds from 0 to 40 knots in any direction at any time, it seemed. But having a boat meant that we could stop off and have beautiful walks, all over Queen Charlotte Sound, unless landslips got in the way. Not all forests are in good shape here, but some are still old and beautiful. We went back to Anakiwa, and a kind local let us raid her lemon tree. By now, it was Christmas. And although I'm a bit of a Scrooge with all the waste that is associated with Christmas, Anakiwa brought out my Christmas spirit with their ukulele sing-along in the local hall. Even my inner Scrooge thought it was a bit cute. Next, I jumped ship for a little while to visit friends and family and to go to work. First, I was on my way to Tasmania to enjoy some good things from home, like my stepmom's cooking and access to their veggie patch. After some fine dining with the family, I went to sleep in a swag within a mozzie net. It was great to smell the Tassie bush again. There were a bunch of us here at my friend's house, and as a team, we put up 80s aerial rig, which had been hibernating over the winter. Once this was set, I trained a little bit for my upcoming job, and then we went swimming in the river. Well, Lilu the dog was a little reluctant, but the rest of us swam. It was so good to catch up with so many family and friends, including the Sands family. They have the coolest toys in the world. Check this out. In this structure, you can decide whether the fourth wall is a deck or a wall with the turn of a winch. Genius. But I had to leave friends, family, and their berries behind. It was time to go to work at the Western Australian Circus Festival. I was off toward the bottom of Western Australia, where I was to teach, perform, and train. We all had a few days in the office to prepare before the students arrived. This was to be my home for the next 2 weeks, in this cosy neighbourhood. Once we were well set up to teach, we could take a trip to the beach to meet the stingrays of Hamlin Bay. And get a few goodies at the local market. then the crowds arrived and the training began. There was training all day, every day, and then cabarets by night. I not only taught, but got to take part in classes like this, my favourite, the flash mob. It was a great way to warm up in the morning, and is definitely something I can't do on the boat. I got to try some other things here too that I can't do on the boat. I didn't have time to make them pretty, but I gave them a go and had a ball. You may wonder why I can't do these on the boat. Well, even a small person falling can create a lot of force, and that would definitely not be good for our rigging. So on the boat it's slow and steady, and while I'm here, I'll live it up. Pretty soon I'll be getting back on the boat, but I've met some amazing people here, including my students. Over the 2 weeks I got to know what they were doing outside of Silk's class, and thought you might like to meet a couple of them.
Chelsea is a poultry farmer. Tell us about which poultry you are farming at the moment.
Well, I'm farming chickens, ducks, I've got a peacock at the moment, quails. I think that's it.
How many chicks have you got and what kind of birds are they?
I don't have any chicks at the moment, but I do. My breeds of chickens are Austrops, Silkies and Leghorns.
And what about your quails? How many have just hatched?
24.
And how are they doing?
Yeah, great.
Good. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Pretty soon, and next episode, I'll be back on the boat with Steve. But I'll leave you with perhaps the longest list of pets I've ever heard.
So, Emily, do tell us about how many pets you have and what they are.
We have cows, and we have a lot of chickens, and quails, and ducks, and peacocks. And we have 2 dogs named Turbo and Dion. And we have 2 cats named Chia and Roxy. And we have... And then we have 5 horses. And we have 2 emus and a baby Joey.
That's a lot of animals, wow.
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Emily.